uh, tell us a little bit about product management, how you run. So, how do you define the product roadmap? Because prioritization, I believe, is the most important part because you're running with limited resources and you want to get the most bang for the buck. So, how do you define your product roadmap, and what are the input streams from which you get the input data to make your product roadmap
Mhm.
and then prioritize it?
Yeah. So just one step before that, right? Because we focused on enterprise SaaS, we obviously have personas, right? There are 6 target personas that we focus on, and inside our persona there is a customer and then there is a user, and those are actually two different human beings, right?
Hmm.
The salesperson who's actually using Bimo is not the buyer. The person who's the buyer, who's probably the head of sales, or maybe even the head of technology, they may not even use the product. They may, but higher chances that they're using other analytical tools and so on. So we actually have, from a product perspective, I have to prioritize what are the features that uh, helps the customer and what are the features that helps the user. And oftentimes they're not the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Second thing is, again, because we are enterprise focused, we sort of break our roadmap into 4 broad categories. The first, we call it client commits. These are things that we've told the customer we'll give it, and we need to give it. And these typically would be things we would say yes to the customer only if they are on our product roadmap. So think of this as accelerated product roadmap items. So things that we said, hey, we will anyway do this because the customer is asking us, we'll do them sooner. That's the first category. The second category we like to think about are, the actual roadmap items, right? Which are, hey, longer term investments. This is not blocking any client, it's not blocking a sale, but it's a new capability that we want to give to our customers or our users. That's the second category. The third, of course, are productivity related items. So, for example, if you have 10 features, how do we make it easier for either our product team or for the engineering team or even for our customers to be able to deploy those features faster? So that entire category, we move it into something called as productivity. That's the third thing. That's a high leverage item for us actually, right? And last but not the least is a category I call taxes, which is technical debt, product debt, things that we cut corners on. That's coming back to bite us. It used to work for a company when we had 1,000 users, but doesn't work when we have 10,000 users. So that's the third category, or areas where we're getting a lot of support tickets from our customers on. So those are the 4 broad areas: client commitments, strategic roadmap items, productivity enhancement items, and then taxes or debt, which could be product debt, technical debt, any kind of debt. So from a roadmap perspective, that's what we want to try and balance, at least on a quarterly, monthly basis. The other thing, from a roadmap perspective, is we used to do annual roadmaps, but then we, pretty quickly moved away from multi-quarter, multi-year roadmaps
Hmm.
into quarterly, monthly. So at this point, again, if you look at Corona, when we were doing our AMJ planning early in March, it didn't look the way it looks right now.
True.
So in some ways, it's a good decision that we decided to move to almost a rolling monthly and quarterly roadmap. So from an engineering perspective, the uh, the deadlines that we work with is before the month starts, engineering is completely unblocked, and the product managers and the product team are sort of working on the next one. So, so if you look at right now, the product team is completely focused on June. And when I say product team, I mean all the functions, UX, design, PMs, everyone. So all of us are focused on June. Engineering is absolutely heads down, executing May.
Okay.
And we want to sort of get further ahead in terms of being able to do multi-quarter thinking, but with the uncertainty that's around us, it's probably better not to be theoretical about we must have a roadmap. We have to be very practical about these
Certainly.
things.
Yeah, very rightly said. It always helps. So I believe the days of having multi-year roadmaps, so you can have a theme in mind, but then you cannot have like multi-year roadmap today. The
Yeah.
best is to take, and the market is so dynamic. You are creating a category. I'd like to say you're category leader, which means that you have to be more agile.